Hey, everybody. Go ahead and fire away. You can unmute yourself or type in. Um, Anything goes.
Um, yeah. Hi, Greg. It's Linda.
Hey, Linda.
Hi. I have two things tonight.
Sure.
One, over the last few days, I've done a couple of pranic psychotherapy sessions for some folks who were in Israel for like the first 10 days of the situation there
Yeah.
and are now out. One is in London and one is back in LA. Um, and I've worked on them for trauma and worked with pranic psychotherapy to remove the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, I was wondering I don't know how to find within all the things we're learning with you, what would be the right plant prana protocol to help them. I went to the integration one of the integration classes on
Mm-hmm.
and gave one of them something to do with the nervous system because she had Ling
Right.
Lang with her.
Yeah, yeah.
And I saw that on there and it was calming the central nervous system. So I gave her that pattern to do
Mm-hmm.
since she already works with oils in certain ways. But I was wondering if you had any advice for
I mean, like if it was possible, I would do the PTSD kit, like and they can follow a pattern or not, but it's basically tarragon, then rue, then hyssop, then splendor.
okay.
If that's not possible, something like Lang Lang is good. Like you said, it's calming down the central nervous system. The thing is like a lot of times, you're dealing with like kind of the shock of the situation, not just in the moment. There's different kinds of shock, and so there can be very long term kind of shock where they're just like rattled for a while. Because I mean, I can't even imagine how traumatic that is. um and so you want to do things to like tone up the automatic or autonomic nervous system. So things like tarragon, marjoram would be really super good, but tarragon, rosemary, anise, lemongrass, um trying to think of what other things could be used in that, like benzoin, even rose could be used that way.
Mhm.
um, and the idea is just to get them out of that initial, like just being so blindsided by everything and then just being in such a traumatic event, you know um, then from there, uh yeah, just calming things down. Things that are trauma related, helichrysum is always good, but I would say at first it's going to be more just like you targeted the nervous system. That would be the thing, like you just want to calm down the nervous system. And I would say they're in a situation where it wasn't just like, oh, this is stressful or something happened. They're in just this crazy chaotic thing. And so, looking at it from the point of view of the energetics, the Ming Men is usually super crazy overactive. And so you gotta like calm that down a bunch. So things that are just like calming, any of the blue oils, but even with your healing, really blew the Ming Men for a crazy amount of time, 4 or 5 minutes, of just energizing.
Okay.
Like, and you could even probably do that a couple times. Sometimes the trick, if it's really still not stabilizing, is you can use gold, because it will, gold has a bit of consciousness and will help to regulate it a little bit faster, but clean the arms and legs quite a bit. And so even with the oils, like things like vetiver or spikenard, like either applied to the limbs or inhaled onto the limbs. And even if they don't have that, just like even simple lavender, just if you calm down the activity in the arms and legs, it helps them to be a little bit more like present and not stuck back in the moment, back where they were at. And so yeah, I mean, this isn't taught directly in like outwardly in pH, but you know how you do general sweeping on the aura?
Right.
Like step into like where they're like you're standing like where they're at or like right next to them, and then you turn outward and you do like the general sweeping, but you're sweeping outward. You're sweeping like away from their body, like front and back.
Oh,
And you're sweeping out the energy in their field that's from that situation.
so it's kind of like sweeping from the inside out.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And one of the ways that you could do that or have them do that as well is just chanting like Om or Om Mani Padme Hum. Um, you know, the sweeping I think is better, but like if they need a little bit of something to be able to get by or to manage, tell them to chant that. But Om Mani Padme Hum is probably a better choice. But tell them to chant it like they're trying to get a baby to go to sleep. Like, not like loud and hard. You're just like, oh, Mani Padme, just really, really gentle and soft. And that will flush things out of the energy body, and it will be very soothing to their sympathetic part of their nervous system, and it will be very soothing to the cerebral spinal fluid circulation. Like it will just start calming the body down quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much for that.
Please keep me posted like that. I've been trying to do little bits here and there in that situation, and it's just sad. I mean, war is sad, but
Yeah.
that one especially is sad.
Yeah.
Like all the children that died and all that. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And just having to be in that situation for them for 10 days was harrowing, as you might imagine. So
I can't even imagine.
yeah. So great. Thank you. And one more quick question.
Mhm.
Hip osteoarthritis. So
Sure.
one of the people I was working with the hip bursitis, now they did an MRI and it's the diagnosis is hip osteoarthritis. Can I do something with that?
Yeah. So osteoarthritis basically just means that the cartilage is thinning in the socket, and the cartilage doesn't have it's like a padding that between the socket and the hip, and or the pelvic bone, and so spasms around that hip socket will reduce blood flow, and the cartilage itself doesn't have its own blood supply, so it depends on blood supply from surrounding tissues. So basically it needs blood supply, blood from surrounding tissues to stay hydrated. And so if it's not hydrated, it starts to break down. Plus it's a weight bearing joint. There's that issue. And so the best thing to do is use things that increase circulation and decrease spasms in the area. And so that joint relief blend is like, that's pretty much what it's made for, is to address that. But if you don't have that and you're trying to work with oils that you have, things like rosemary and cedar, like pine or juniper, even ginger, but you want to increase blood flow into that area. So something like rosemary can be very good with that. Like just the rosemary cedar combination, because rosemary gets blood to the area and starts to move it towards the head, and cedar is like a venous tonic, so it moves the old blood out. So you want blood not just going to the area, you want blood moving through that area so that that area stays hydrated. If it's super inflamed, or if it gets super inflamed, you can add German chamomile, do that for a little bit until it calms down, or blue healer. But the joint relief used daily, even a couple of times a day, can work pretty substantially. Then the other thing to keep in mind is that you just want to keep increasing and improving lymphatic movement, and the joint relief does stimulate lymphatic movement in the area. But anything you can do to keep the lymph moving is always good. So make sure that they're breathing okay, taking nice, good deep breaths, and they have mobility in their legs. If it's bone on bone, I would say switch exercise from walking or something that's weight bearing to doing things like in a swimming pool or something, indoor pool or whatever. But because when it starts grinding bone on bone, it just starts generating a massive amount of inflammatory material. So you have to work harder at reducing inflammation and moving the lymph, because if it reaches a certain like kind of tipping point when it's bone on bone and they're staying super active, it's usually pretty painful when it's that way. The inflammation and the lymphatic issue becomes systemic. It just becomes like all over their body, like their whole body will start hurting. Old injuries will start hurting, and so the other thing to keep in mind when there's osteoarthritis in one of the hips is usually the low back around L2, L3, not all the way at the bottom of the spine, but like the low back area, just a little bit below the Mingmen. That usually, because of how they've had to walk and how they've favored that hip for a while, that there starts to be an uneven wearing on the disc in that area. So sometimes they'll have a little bit of a low back issue. A lot of times that actually will bother them more than the hip. But regardless, I would even if they're not complaining about it, I would still treat the low back, like L2, L3 area, or just the whole low back area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.
So welcome. And keep us posted.
Okay, I will.
And for clarification on the use of those oils, is it inhalation or is it application?
It's topical. Yeah, you would need to put them on topically. Yeah.
And any ointment better than an
Well, I tend to use like ointments, or I use a liniment and an ointment, but the ointment holds it in the area a little bit better. Like when you put it on a liniment, it goes deep. It goes actually a little bit deeper, but it spreads out faster. So sometimes I'll have people put a liniment on, wait a minute or two till it dries, and then put the ointment on as well. But with an ointment, you're putting essential oils in, like a fatty oil. And so what happens is that at some point they start to separate a little bit. And the fatty oil doesn't necessarily penetrate the skin like the essential oil does. So what happens over a slow period of time, it just keeps dripping into that joint area and that tissue. And so it's a way to do kind of a time release of the oils in a particular area. Like you kind of hold it into that spot and you allow it to just keep going into that area, versus a liniment hits that area but hits the bloodstream and just starts going other places.
Thank you. And go ahead, Christina, then Deborah.
Hey, Christina.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing good, thank you.
How's all those animals back there at that?
Oh, they're coming, and I've been featuring them in my newsletter. I don't know if you guys have been getting it or not.
Yes.
But yeah, very, very cute animals. I love their stories and pictures. So, just a few questions. We talked about basil for calming animals for anxiety.
Mhm.
So with since different kinds of basil, does it matter which one we use, like the basil?
I would
holy
use
basil?
probably just the straight basil, like the regular basil or basil linalool. All of them would kind of work, but I find that just the regular standard basil works the best.
Now, we talked about, how about the spray? Would the spray work the same, or is it better to just rub it on their spine?
Like I would spray it onto their spine if you're going to do that. Like get it on their spine.
Okay.
Rub it, because we've had animals that have been really, like maybe it was towards the end of their life and they were getting really agitated and or dogs that were anxious, and we just have the owner put like 3 or 4 drops of basil and then rub it on the spine, but from the tail towards the head, so you kind of go against the fur. And they say it just calms the animal down almost immediately.
Wow.
When I was working with the alpacas, and we had, you know, because like a lot of times with an animal, it's really kind of like an imbalance of the nervous system. Like, you know, they don't process things the way we do, and so when you see something like that, you're really wanting to do something with the nervous system, most likely. And so there were times where, especially if the you know, if you watch the animal walk and they're not really walking in a straight line, or they get a little like top heavy, use like anise or fennel, something like that, just to kind of balance out some of the instinctive responses. Because what happens is they get the imbalance doesn't always go to fight flight. Sometimes it could go to rest and repair, and their body can't take like action or activity. So you have to kind of balance out both sides, you know. And so most times you're dealing with anxiety though. But if you get like an animal that's disoriented, anise, fennel, or even lemongrass could work. But like, I wouldn't put it directly on their skin, like kind of rub it in their fur a little bit, but don't just put drops on the skin, because their bodies can't process it quite like ours. And so it needs to either be mixed with a little alcohol or just rubbed into the fur.
That's just for the anise, fennel, and lemongrass, right? But with the basil, we want it
All of it.
in the skin,
Yeah, no, all of it. You would do
all
all
of
of
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
So the basil just the fur also, right? No skin. Is that what you're
What's that?
saying?
So, she's asking the basil, not directly on the skin.
Yeah, I wouldn't put any essential oil directly on the skin for an animal. It always looks like it irritates the animal a little bit, and I've even seen people do it where it left like a little bit of a, I don't know if it's like a little bit of a rash or something. You know, their body just doesn't process it quite like ours. I mean, it's helpful, but it needs to be not like, it needs to be mixed in something or just rubbed into the fur.
So would a basil spray be better? Because it's mixed in with,
You can do a spray, but still do it along the spine.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we talked about in the past, holy basil for radiation for humans.
Mhm.
Would that work for like EMF also, like for someone who's on the computer a lot? Or who's
Yeah,
bombarded with,
that could help. Marjoram could help. Holy basil could help. What was the other one I was using? There was something else I was using too. Left me right now. When I remember, I'll send it to you or something. But holy basil or marjoram.
so, okay, coriander, we
Mhm.
talked about using that for heavy metals.
Mhm.
Is it specific heavy metals that it will detox?
Yeah, it's specific to heavy metals. Yeah.
No, I mean like specific heavy, because there's a lot of heavy metals like
Oh,
fluoride, mercury.
it's kind of a broad spectrum
Broad
for
spectrum.
heavy metals. Yeah.
And then put that for diabetic neuropathy, for diabetes.
Mhm.
Any suggestion for oils?
So the thing that I would use is a blend, and that's the Nerve Help. And you could put it on neat on an area like when they're really in like some bad pain, but then I would switch over to doing it like an ointment or body tonic, but used over a little period of time. it should reduce the neuropathy quite substantially.
So you would recommend it for a foot bath?
Oh yeah, you could totally
Yeah,
use it
yeah.
for a foot bath.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, salt bath. You know, I thought you were just like, yeah, you could use it in a salt bath, you could use it in a foot bath, you could use it as an ointment, you could use it as a body tonic. Yeah, like that would be where it needs to like touch the skin. Like just inhaling it wouldn't cut it. Like it needs to be rubbed on the area, or you're soaking that area. Yeah, I take nerve help baths all the time. All the time. It's good for neuropathy, it's good for chronic pain, and it's a good oil for like the first, like if you're trying to enter into, I have a kind of pain but I don't know what I should treat, you know, what kind of pain oils, you know, because there's all different kinds of pain. And so the nerve help is a great way to just enter into that arena, you know. Even like if you were to roll your ankle, something like marjoram would probably be better. But if you had nerve help in your pocket, it would be right there as well. Like, you know, it's got a lot of things that are anti-inflammatory. It's got things that are antispasmodic, and it has a few different kinds of sage in it, so that it helps to regenerate the nerve. So like in chronic pain issues, it helps kind of break the pattern of pain. And so even neuropathy, even though there might be a flare up, that's still a chronic syndrome. So anything nerve related like that, you can go through and use that. You know, the pain relief neuropathic could be good, but that's more for like when there's an issue in the spine and you're trying to unwind the spine, or there's entrapment or impingement somewhere, where the nerve help is really good for neuropathies and just, you know, any sort of pain issues in general. Yeah, like doing what you're doing with like the foot baths and everything,
yeah,
nerve
yeah.
help would be the one that I would use. Like it's soft, it's soothing, it's nice. You could bump the dosage up quite substantially if you needed to. You know, if you wanted to do like an extra strength version of a foot bath or something, you could put it on directly, and all the other ones you could, but the nerve help would be probably that, and pain relief psychogenic would be the ones that are most like well tolerated by direct contact with the skin. You know, sometimes people, you know, especially if they're like toxic or their body's a little bit in crisis, just a little bit of oil might be a little much for them. So nerve help should be fine no matter what.
Yeah, I'm asking for a client who has type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
She was asking about,
Yeah.
The
I
foot bath.
would go crazy with the nerve help. Like you know, I have a little bit of neuropathy in both my legs from the back injury from when I was young. And when it flares up, I just dump a bunch of nerve help on it and calms it right down.
so with the foot bath, still do the 8 to 10 drops?
Yeah,
Or-
like if they're really like it's really been bad for a while, or they're a little bit in a crisis, you could start it at 8 or 10, and you could even like double that if you needed to, like if you're really trying to calm something down. Like if my back goes out, that's the thing that I do is I lay down on the floor, try to let my back relax. We put a bunch of the nerve help on the back. I still let it relax until, you know, I can feel it like calm down. And then a lot of times I get up and it's just almost normal. Yeah.
Last question,
Mhm.
CRC, one of my favorite words.
Mhm.
What's in the ingredient?
You would think I would know that one. 30 years, I still don't know that one by the back of my. You know, I made that starting a little over 30 years ago. So it's tea tree, Eucalyptus globulus, Kunzea. And Kunzea is nice because it's the component that really helps increase flexibility in the joints. Palo Santo, cypress, basil, hyssop, St. John's wort, mugwort, artemisia, and frankincense vital.
Good, thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. I'm glad to hear that your animal center is going so well.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And go ahead, Deborah, then Laura.
Hey, Miss Deborah.
Hi, Greg.
Mhm.
I am still dealing with the COVID stuff, and
Okay.
I haven't been such a great patient with working the terebinth and the
Yeah, it's okay. Tell me where you're
uh,
at. Like, are you still having difficulty, or is there still a lot of mucus?
well, the problem is that I'm feeling pain in my throat, and it really moves around from like the lower throat chakra to the front and then kind of in the back. It's kind of moving all around, and it happened like within minutes. So I'm wondering if it's actually something else besides,
Okay,
I don't know if part of it's energetic.
right. So does it hurt when you swallow?
Let me try. Not really, but you
But
can
is
tell.
there's something up when you swallow though? Like you feel a little like,
Well, I feel like yeah, there's definitely, yeah, there's something up.
do you feel any inflammation along the bottom of your jawline in here?
Wait, where were you pointing? Where?
Like you know, like if you go to the bottom of your jaw, do you feel like a little inflamed or a little like tender or anything along the jaw, the bottom of the jaw?
So remember I had a tooth extracted, and it's the lower molar,
Correct.
and I called the oral surgeon to make sure if something like that be related, and they insisted upon it not being related, but
Okay.
um
It might not be
okay.
You never know, but so this is what I think is probably happening is that because of all this, like anytime you have like a respiratory condition where there's mucus involved, you always have the potential of aggravating the trigger points in the sternocleidomastoid. And like the sternocleidomastoid can have like these like pseudo sore throats. It can cause a spasmodic cough. It can cause like weird pains, like you described, how they kind of bounce around a little bit. You know, again, like I go to myself, like I had an injury. I've had a bunch of injuries in my life, mostly in my youth. And so like I have one side of my neck, even though I've had a ton of therapy on it, that sternocleidomastoid still is a little compromised in that area. And I'll get that thing where I'll get like deep, like kind of pains in the throat, or like when I swallow, or sometimes I'll get a little bit of a cough. And it's not like a deep cough. It's like, it's like just a little bit of like a spasmy cough. And it will even radiate on the head a little bit, but it'll also make like the jawline and even the gums like get inflamed somewhat. And then go through and treat it, it all goes away. And the magic bullet here would be the lantana. Like use the lantana, inhale it quite a bit, and then rub some oils on each side that, I like to use thyme linalool, but like anything that's like got a antispasmodic, where you're increasing circulation. Like so, petitgrain, a little basil, marjoram, anything in that nature. I like thyme linalool because it still stimulates like circulation and lymphatic movement. It's gentle, it's well tolerated. It increases even the blood in the like the capillaries in the area. And so but use what you got. But like I'm pretty sure you have some lantana, don't you? Like it was in some classes and
I think I do. And if I didn't have it, I think I ordered it. So,
yeah. So
but I do have the
just
time
inhale it
as well.
inhale it a bunch, and then do like on the throat minor, and then go back and forth between throat minor and then your ear canals, because you're like when you're working your ear canals, you're basically working the attachment site that's behind the ear for the sternocleidomastoid, and then it comes down, and one head hits the clavicle and one hits the sternum, and so the throat minor and the ear, you'll hit them both. And I would work both sides, but I mean I would sit for like 20 or 30 minutes and just, I mean, that's the thing, like when my sternocleidomastoid gets really wound up, that's my go-to thing, and it always pulls it out of crisis.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And so, I'm not really having the cough so much, but I mean, you can
Good.
hear it, the scratchiness in my voice.
Yeah.
So, do I need to still continue to do the Termin and the
If the mucus has decreased, no. Like if
Okay.
you're not really fighting with the mucus or anything like that, I would say you're good. Do you have like some lemon or something like that?
just straight lemon?
Like
I-
even if you don't have a lemon essential oil, you could go to the grocery store, those big green bottles that are the lemon juice.
yeah.
Pour some of that in a glass of water, and just a couple of times a day, just keep drinking it down, like put like a tablespoon in, and if that's too much, get as much in as you can, but you want to almost treat it like it's even though it's just like kind of scratchy and gravelly and everything, you almost treat it like you would laryngitis. And it's not necessarily laryngitis, but it's like the same oils kind of treat it. And so lemon is just a nice way to get your body like kind of back in balance and get everything going, and getting a little bit of a detox that's not going to throw you into crisis. Like it just, cleans everything up. It normalizes mineral deficiencies, it does a bunch of things, but it really treats laryngitis really well. That's why like you see singers, they'll do like honey and lemon. It's because it's so good on the throat for like the voice box and the larynx and all that. Yeah. So
Great.
that's what I would treat it like that. And it's also delicious. So,
All right.
it's like kind of
Yeah.
win-win.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. But if Deborah, if it continues, let me know. Like we because you've been dealing with this for quite a while. And so like if it's just not getting better, then we gotta, maybe spend a little time trying to do a little evaluation, figuring out what's going on. But I think it's just, if you do the things we just talked about, that should relatively resolve it.
Well, my real concern is that I start treatment in Sedona on Monday, and I'm going to have enough going on in my body to not have to navigate this stuff. So I'm trying to treat it.
So take some lemon with you, take some helichrysum, just because you're doing fascial work and that'll help with the fascia. But if there's pain that flares up or trauma that comes out, good thing to have on hand. Take maybe some sage and anything that's nice and gentle, like pain relief, and then also probably like tarragon or benzoin or something, so that if something does come up, you can inhale it, or if something gets a little too intense, you have like a little safety net there. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome, and enjoy your class.
Thank you.
And just really quick, someone's asking, can taking the lemon internal cause skin sensitivities?
You would have to take some big dosages of it. It's possible. Usually the skin sensitivities is more when you put it on topically rather than when you're taking it internally. I mean, it can always happen, but I would say topically I'd be super careful. But internally, you know. Unless you're just out in the sun all the time, maybe I wouldn't risk it. But if you're just going out and doing your normal daily things, I really wouldn't worry about it.
And then go ahead, Laura, then Robert.
Hey, Miss Laura.
Hey, Greg. Great session last night. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Uh,
I'm glad you enjoyed.
It
That was so
great.
fun. We were like, after we got off, we were like, that was so much fun. Like it was.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I've got homework to do.
Yeah.
That is just one that really was interesting for me. I was talking to a friend who I had mentioned that I did aromatherapy kind of stuff, just essential oils, personally,
Mhm.
taking the classes. And somebody had mentioned to him that this may be a treatment. So I'm running this past you.
Sure.
He has had many head injuries, concussions, and he no longer can smell or taste anything.
Yeah.
He's got scar tissue on the frontal lobe. Is there anything that can be done with essential oils?
It's actually very, very possible. The thing that I would do, like, there's two things that I would treat. So one, I would use something like helichrysum, and you can inhale it, but I would put it in either like neat or in like a little bit of alcohol, and then rub it all like on the front part of his head, and then even like up on the scalp and everything, like kind of rub it into that whole area up there. And the idea is that, it hits the bloodstream, and a lot of what happens is there's scar tissue, but really what we're calling scar tissue is like fascial lesions. It's like areas in the connective tissue just get really tight. Helichrysum is amazing for that. And so the other things that I use sometimes on head injuries, a little bit more if they're like newer, but I still have used them on like very old injuries, is anything that's like dark blue, like so yarrow, German chamomile, dark blue tansy, even the regular blue tansy, Cape chamomile, and in some cases even gone as light as Roman chamomile, which doesn't really have blue in it, but it's still very antispasmodic. It's very toning, reduces inflammation, very good for the nervous system. And so we kind of want to treat the tissue, but we also want to rehab some of the nervous system in that area. And so those like chamomiles and yarrow and German chamomile and helichrysum, like any of that would be good. Helichrysum's nice because it's not messy like the dark blue ones. Like, if he's putting a bunch of blue stuff on his head, he's going to end up looking like Braveheart. You know what I mean? Like going into battle. And so, it's a little messy. And so doesn't mean people don't do it, but it's I definitely would put it in like a body tonic or something like that. Then for the nose and the taste, basil. And I would have him inhale the basil with the nose, and then put like 2 or 3 drops in a little small amount of water, and then gargle every day. And
You said gargle?
yeah, gargle with it. And most times, like it doesn't happen like overnight, but most times if it's done consistently for a little bit, it potentially can bring the smell back. The reason I say may here is that a lot of times you have it because of like chronic sinus issues, or like those are a symptom of COVID, and over a little bit of time it would come back, and you use the basil, and not every time, but most times it would bring it back over a period of time. But there's times where, like in Indian culture, they'll suck on like turmeric, like the little root pieces of the root turmeric, or they'll take massive dosages of turmeric, like when they get sick or something. And sometimes that will knock the taste buds out. And I've seen that like not always bounce back from basil. And so I don't know if he was using supplements to try to reduce some of the inflammation in the head, because that's one of the things that people will do sometimes with turmeric. So that's check in with him to see if that is like, it will just take a lot longer to do it because of that. And then if there is, a nerve or something that's being compressed, that could throw that off as well. When there's a moderate amount of pressure, it agitates the nerve. And when there's a lot of pressure, the nerves go to sleep. And so he doesn't have any issue with like double vision or anything like
Nope.
that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So I would do what we said, but even if there's a compression, even the helichrysum up there would probably take care of the compression, as long as it
Okay.
was significant.
So how often would you put the heliochrysum on?
Daily. Yeah.
Just one time a day?
I mean, if you could do twice, that would be great, but usually getting somebody to do it consistently once a day is pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, and for the basil, would you do that more than once a day?
I would do it morning and night just to make it quicker. But even if he just did it like, in the morning when he got up or something like that, that would be amazing.
So if he's ordering with just heliochrysum and basil,
Yep.
or would you add something else?
No, just those two things.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. That
You're
was
so
great.
welcome. Yeah, keep me posted.
Take care. Bye.
And then go ahead, Robert, then
Hey,
Denise.
Mr. Robert.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing really good, thank you. I have a friend, and I haven't talked to her personally yet. She tripped and fell in her backyard and broke the 5th metatarsal on one foot and a triple compound fracture of the tibia on the other leg. And from what she's written so far, her primary complaint is pain.
Yeah.
And so in reading what she said, again, I haven't talked to her, there's the shock portion of it. And you mentioned earlier, Tarragon Rue, Hyssop Splendor. And then
So how long ago did this happen?
5 or 6 days ago.
Okay. I'd probably just like have her inhale the tarragon just to calm and settle the nerves and deal with the shock of the situation.
She
But,
has
like,
had surgery. Greg, she's had surgery already.
Okay. Yeah, with a compound, like it's either they're about to or
Yeah.
So I would do the tarragon, and then I would have her rotate with taking black cumin and galbanum internally, like at least 3 drops of each, a couple of times a day. If that's a little too much, have her put the galbanum on her wrist, but increase the drops, like maybe 5-6 drops a couple of times a day, but the cumin at least a couple of times a day. And then the galbanum should reduce some of the pain. The issue is also you can't really, she's casted up and there's surgery sites and everything, so you can't go applying something to that area. So marjoram, if you put marjoram up on like the thigh above it, it will help the bone to heal and reduce some of the spasms, like, because the injury is like a sprain, but much worse. And so you still use marjoram to address some of the sprain. And the other thing that I use sometimes, like when I can't get at something, like here, you have a surgery site, it's a cast, we put the marjoram up on the thigh and then have them inhale birch complex. And the birch complex is a little bit more specific to that kind of pain, and it will help reduce it. And she can just inhale it as much as she wants. I mean, she can go crazy with it. The tarragon, she could even take internally just to keep her body calm. And, it's an antispasmodic and very soothing to the nerves and things like that. And it addresses the disturbance that happened in the nervous system with the injury. Like as soon as she got injured, her nervous system was out of whack. So it does help to reduce that. To help the healing process, the marjoram on the thigh should help the bone to heal at a faster rate. But there is this herb that you'll have to go on Amazon to get, because you won't find it in a health food store, and get it in capsules, not in a tincture. But Solomon seal. and have her take like 3 capsules twice a day. And my experience is that like a normal break, instead of 6 weeks, it heals in about 3 to 4 weeks. And really nasty breaks, it still makes that heal so much faster. And in fact, when there's been spiral fractures where they watch it even for like a week before they're deciding to take surgery, I've given people just massive amounts of Solomon seal, and we put marjoram on, the area above the injury site. And I don't think there's been one time where they've decided to do surgery. Like, it's just like, I think we're gonna have to do surgery, and then they go, oh no, it's beginning to mend. And so it just makes the bone mend much faster. And in old herbal medicine, they used to have to mend these like nasty breaks without being able to do surgeries. So they would set it the best that they could, and then they would just give them massive dosages of the Solomon seal. And the writings were that even the most like gnarly break usually could still be healed. They didn't have the ability to straighten it and do what we do now, so sometimes it would be a little crooked or whatever, but still it would heal.
Okay, so just to recap, make sure I got it written down.
Uh-huh.
The Tarragon inhaled or internally daily?
I would do both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me change
Because
that.
she's probably pretty miserable right now.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Galbanum and black cumin alternate 3 drops internally a couple times a day.
Yeah, I mean, she could take one and then wait a couple minutes and then take the other, but do them both twice a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Galbanum on wrists, 5 to 6 drops a couple times.
If she's
a day.
taking an internal, she doesn't need to do it. I mean, she can, but she doesn't need to.
Okay.
That one's an
marjoram.
either internal or on the wrist.
Okay. Marjoram on the thigh. Inhale Birch Complex.
Yeah.
And take Solomon seal capsules.
Yeah.
About how many on the capsules?
3 capsules twice a day. Yeah, it's also a bit of unnerving, so it will like kind of calm and settle the nerves a little bit, but definitely helps the bone to mend faster. But
Awesome.
also I would, at first the focus is on the break and everything like that. But if she fell, as the adrenaline wears off, she probably twisted her back, or she did something. She jammed her wrist. She did something else. Like she didn't just hurt her leg where she broke it. I guarantee you there's other injuries other places, but at first the adrenaline is running and you don't really feel it until everything starts to relax. And then after a few days, if she's had surgery, would you say 5 or 6 days out, next week or later in this week is probably going to be a pretty rough week. Like, she's in pain now,
Yes.
but she's going to be in worse pain in a few days, because
Okay.
the anesthesia wears off, the body starts calming down, the nerves are starting to function again. Usually the second week is the most brutal out of them all. So get something in place so that you stay ahead of the pain
curve.
response. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so if you
Okay.
can keep it tempered, that's what I would do. If you need to adjust, like it's still not working, because I'm sure they're going to put her on. I mean, you never know these days, but usually they would put them on like a opioid, for like a week or two. I mean, you never know. Like sometimes they withhold that or whatever. The use of myrrh internally can, like if they're just giving them like ibuprofen or something, the myrrh hits the opioid receptors, and so it has a bit of a pain relieving impact on the nervous system. And if they're taking like a pain pill like a Vicodin or something, it will make it work better. Like it will make it like more effective. It doesn't increase like the intensity of it, but it makes it like have a better effect in the areas that it's trying to target in the body. So like in years past, like I used myrrh to reduce people's pain meds, because like when you're dealing with an opioid, you take them off of it, they have a rebound effect. So we'd use myrrh to start decreasing the dosage, and it would minimize or completely get rid of the rebound so that they could go off the med, eventually. And so you can have that
Okay.
one in your back pocket. You already got her doing a bunch of stuff, but if it's still not enough, you can use myrrh, and then just any time that you like calm the nerves when they're in pain like that, that usually helps. The tarragon should hit that, but if you need more, just reach out to us and let us know, like text me or something. And
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
yeah.
And then go ahead, Denise, then Sonia.
Hey, Denise.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Well, I had a cold all weekend, so
Oh, bummer.
I think it's just because, I'm really trying to make some changes in my
Mhm.
life. And I just think it's like my body just really confused, especially after the weekend. It's
Yeah.
like it doesn't know where to go, really. So I better keep doing what we've been doing. At least then I can kind of keep things straight. I was wondering between let's see, the frankincense and myrrh or the three wise men, which one
Mhm.
do I work? Because you want me taking them each day, like 3 drops a time or 2 a day.
Oh, maybe do the three wise men.
Okay,
Yeah.
3.
Or the frankincense and myrrh. The frankincense and myrrh is a little bit less expensive. And the three wise men it's still frankincense and myrrh, but it's a bunch of fancy frankincenses and things and a couple types of myrrh. And so you'll see them on the site, but like, either way, frankincense and myrrh, three wise men, but just do the combination. Yeah.
And then the lantana is still good for the weekend before because I really do want to get that one for some reason.
Yeah. I would, man, it's become one of my new favorite oils. Like it's amazing on the neck.
I do have some real neck issues.
Yeah.
And then I have a friend that has fibromyalgia. She has for many, many years, and I'm going to
Mhm.
see her this weekend. And she just more recently, she said, well, she says, well, I actually have kind of chronic pain in a number of places, she was saying, but in her jaw and in her neck. And I
Mhm.
kind of thought spikenard when we worked with it, when we were
Yes,
working with
spikenard and the lantana could work, but I'd also, because of the fibromyalgia and stuff, I would probably put her on like a sage body tonic. I'd have her take like frankincense and myrrh internally as well. And
Really?
then I mean, you could probably even just start with that, but also that nerve help that I was talking about a little bit before. That's usually what I start people out with right off the bat with fibromyalgia.
Okay, so again, you like spikenard body tonic, the
Yeah.
frankincense and myrrh, and this one would be internal.
Yes,
And then
three or
nerve
four
help-
drops, one to two times a day. Yeah. It would act as an anti-inflammatory. It jumpstarts the nerves, because part of the issue with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia is the glands aren't working that great. And so it jumpstarts all that, and it's anti-inflammatory, and it helps with pain. It's like it's a win on a lot of levels.
And the nerve health, please.
Yeah, so you would have her put that on areas that are painful or are hurting. Yeah.
Topical. Then
Yeah,
mostly.
topical. Yeah.
And maybe those jaw, by the ear,
Mhm.
ears definitely with her too, right?
Yeah.
My son also has fibromyalgia, but he's not terribly receptive to anything. So I'll just keep this in consideration
Yeah.
someday for him.
Yeah.
But for her, and then could you just tell me about orange healer, what it's good for? Because I have it like in a body tonic.
Yeah, so super good. It's energetically, it's very cleansing, it's very expelling, like it breaks up and stimulates lymphatic movement. And then it has a diuretic effect, so it helps push fluid out of the body. So it basically helps you to pee more. Like you eliminate through urination at a much higher degree. It's toning and strengthening to the kidneys.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's great. I really enjoyed both the last 2 weeks classes.
Oh,
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Keep us posted. Let me know how you're doing.
I will. Thanks
Yeah.
for being there for us. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And go ahead, Sonia, then Laura.
Hey, Miss Sonia.
What was the herb again that helps you use water?
Shazandra.
Mm.
Yeah. Helps you sleep as well. Like it's very it's very good for just toning the body. You know how like some things like cinnamon and peppermint stimulate the body, like Shazandra is just very toning to the body. Doesn't necessarily stimulate everything, but it usually helps you sleep better, get more water, your tissues get more hydrated, mucous membranes do better. It actually is somewhat purifying to the mucous membranes because of, you know, they're moistened, so they're able to kind of push some of the toxic material out. And so, yeah, it's very
Yeah.
nice.
I'd taken it for about a year, and I didn't notice any change, but
Oh, what kind of dosage were you doing?
I think it was 1 capsule a day or 1 lozenge, and I don't
You were doing the herb or the oil?
herb.
Yeah, you would have to take a much bigger dosage of the herb. Yeah, like you would have to take you know, maybe 10-12 capsules a day. Yeah.
And how much is in the capsule? Or
You know, when I used to do it with herbs before I knew the oil, I actually didn't even have people do capsules. I would get the you know, the Shazandra itself, and I grind it up into a powder, and I'd have them take a teaspoonful of it at a time. Like, so I would have them take a big dose and then just wash it down with water. So the capsules were probably 300, 400, or 500 milligrams, something like that.
Mhm.
It's cheaper to do the oil. The oil is not very expensive. Three drops is going to be a bigger dosage than 12 capsules a day, and that bottle will probably last you like 2-3 months.
Do you carry the oil?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Robert put the link there in the chat if you want to see the link. And then go ahead, Laura.
Hey, Miss Laura.
Hey, sorry, I forgot when I
No, it's
was
okay.
on earlier. My son pulled his, he tore, I guess, his patella tendon, I think, about
Yeah.
8 weeks ago.
Bummer.
And he is still in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And
Bummer.
and you know, he was told it wasn't going to last this long by the orthopedist, and the physical therapist says, you know, this is a long
It's a
recovery.
long journey to get that thing better.
Um,
You know, like I remember working on athletes, and when they would tear a tendon or a ligament, they'd go, "Oh, I wish I would have broken a bone," because that would be healed in 6 weeks. Tendons, oh man. How did he tear it?
playing soccer.
So did he fall on it or
I
twist?
could find that out, but I don't know.
Because some of the issue might be like if he fell on it and it got torn, is he might have actually bruised the kneecap, and that's going to hurt for a while. Like it's not that something's like bad or broken or something, but if he bruised the kneecap, it's just painful for a while. The thing that I would put on it is helichrysum, but we could actually do helichrysum mixed with Eucalyptus citrodora, and it's a very good for like tendonitis. It's very good for like tendon oriented issues. very good anti-inflammatory, especially for the tendons. He could just put it on neat on the area. And because it's mixed with the Citradora, it actually reduces the cost quite substantially, you know, with the helichrysum. And so, and then, you know, ironically, the thing that I was just talking about Sonia with Shazandra is it helps to like in Chinese medicine, they would say like build the tendon, you know, but basically it just, because it's so hydrating, it helps to undo some of the fascial lesions and things that can happen in an injury like that. And because of what it does, it actually increases the potential of blood getting into that tendon. And the reason why tendons are so like stubborn about healing is they don't have a great blood supply. They have a blood supply, but it's not like, you know, if he injured just a muscle, it would have responded much quicker because the muscle has a much better blood supply, but the tendon is so dense, not as much blood gets in there. And so
So
the
is
helichrysum,
Shazandra put on topically?
no, it would have to be internal. Yeah,
And how much?
like 3 drops a day.
And he's a big guy.
Yeah, so like, I mean, if he wants to bump it up a little bit, he could, but like 3 drops should get it.
Okay, and how often with the helichrysum?
I mean, he could do that a couple of times a day just because it would reduce pain and help it to heal. But
So
you know,
would an
even
ointment be best or what would be best, ointment or just neat?
I would just do neat. Like a lot of times I would say ointment, but in this particular case, I would just put it on like a few drops and just really rub it into the tendon itself.
Okay, and I should get helichrysum and the
Yeah, do we have that on the site? It's like tendon something. What's it called? Hold on. I think we already have that. Let me look it up real quick. 'Cause I've made it for people, but I don't know if we put it on the site.
We don't have anything specific that says tendon on the site.
I don't know what else I would have called it.
What is it made of?
Just helichrysum and Eucalyptus citradora.
I think you've just made it for people.
Yeah.
You want me to just send an email?
Mhm.
Yeah. Do that, and then we'll make us a personal product for you. And I think that's all I've ever done is done personal products on that one.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
Would marjoram help with pain?
Actually the helichrysum and the Eucalyptus citradora should help with pain. You could always put him on some galbanum if he feels up to it. The black cumin might help, but if anything, I would say the galbanum would be more helpful in a situation like this.
So is that internal, and how often, how much?
It could be internal, or it could be 3 or 4 drops on his wrist. If he's not used to smelling funny, I'd say have him take it internally. If he's okay with, because you know it's a little bit of an odd smell. If he's okay with it, then 4 or 5 drops on the wrist.
And internally, how much?
Like 3 drops, maybe twice a day.
Thanks so much.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Thanks, Sam. Hey, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So excited for that class you're gonna have here.
Yeah, isn't it going to be nice? We were just
Oh my
talking
gosh.
logistics because, you know,
Yeah, how will
everybody's
that
gonna,
work with the different zodiacs?
yeah, you're going to have to tell us your sign, and then we're making.
Tonight, don't buy your ticket.
Don't
Tonight,
order it yet.
actually, after, oh, did you? It's okay. So.
No, I haven't.
Okay, if anyone has, I'm just gonna contact them, but we're actually sending it
Yeah.
up, so you're actually gonna sign up as your sign.
Yeah.
So you're gonna register and it'll be like Aries,
Right.
Pisces, you know, whatever the sign is, and then we'll have it, so you're getting your kit. So sign up will actually be super easy, for you guys. It'll just be a lot of office organizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So exciting. We're giddy excited about that.
Yeah, it's a, you know, I wanted to do it a while back and I was like, the timing doesn't feel right, but it feels right now. But yeah,
Absolutely.
everybody's going to get their own kit that's specific to their sign. So
Sam, I'm glad I waited because I
Yeah.
was thinking about that last night.
I mean, it'll be
How
okay.
does that work?
I'm just emailing the
Yeah.
people that have already registered and being like, oh, what's your sign? But we started talking about like, it's logistically easier. And so now we figured it out and we'll have it up and ready to order by the end of the night. So
Cool. All right. Can you give a little teaser on that, Greg?
talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to be working probably better if I bring it up.
Remind me the title, something about
The
Zodiac.
transformational astrology.
Oh, okay. I totally made something up. Transformational astrology.
Right? Is that what I would
Yeah,
call it?
transformational astrology, working your personal sign.
It's not coming up on my thing.
You could go ahead and-
No, I got it. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to be working your personal sign, which is also tied to an alchemical process. Then you're working, oh God, I can't even remember now. The planet associated with your sign, you're working the archangel, the zodiac angel, the Greek god associated with the planet. We're doing some aspects of stuff on the will and working instinctual responses. That's what we do right off the bat. And the instinctual responses helps increase or improve the three brains and the active clairvoyance, basically intuition. And so basically it's a way that we see our experience when we're here in our life is we kind of see it through the glasses of our sign, whatever our sign is. And it's tied to us like learning our lessons and playing out like a pattern or a plan set forth by the soul and for development. And so it's really a way to like go through and align with your sign and how you see things, enhance your abilities and your intuitive qualities, because you could say intuition isn't just intuition. There's a lot of different aspects to intuition, and usually your part of intuition is a little bit more specific, that's associated with your sign. So like for me, I'm Capricorn, so my intuition is a little bit more Capricorn oriented, where somebody who is like a Gemini is a little bit more Gemini oriented. And so the alchemical process actually helps to refine that. So it helps to basically kind of process information and how you interact with the environment. It helps you to process karmic imagery, and it helps you to kind of unwind and align with the plan laid out for the soul to like learn your lesson, evolve, but also bring greater stability and be more creative and then let go of some of the things that you are trying to let go of in your life. And so
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's
sounds deep.
It's a fancy one. Yeah, they're all fancy, but this one is, usually we lay out a template for like kind of everybody, where this one's really starting to differentiate. Different people have different little journeys and paths, and this is trying to help align people in their version of what they're trying to do.
Right.
Instead of just doing a blanket, like this is what we're all doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Yeah.
So very excited.
Yeah.
Question, please. for someone that, for a friend who is going through some, difficult time, there's a whole big sense of fear surrounding them, do healing, do pH psychotherapy, and they're fine for a few days and then gets overwhelming again. And it's impacting me where probably unbeknownst to them, there's cords like attaching to my upper chakras.
Sure.
So it's twofold, right? How to ease the panic and fear on their end and how to kind of disengage that. It's almost like someone hanging on for dear life.
Sure. I get you.
Yeah.
They're in that state because something's happening or about to happen, or they're just kind of in that state.
Something's happening. A lot of stressful situations with work and family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there loss, change, conflict?
All of the above.
All the above. Yeah. I would probably do tuberose if that's in the wheelhouse for this person.
Okay.
I would say inhale it in general, inhale it on the organs of blood purification, inhale it on the arms and legs.
Okay. Arms, legs.
So there's a pattern, like it's actually in the class that we're talking about. It's that we're working it a little bit different here, like in the transformational astrology class, we work it to refine the aspects of the three brain. Here you're just trying to calm and stabilize something. There's levels or degrees of instinctual responses. Instinctual responses are tied to like stress and pain and things like that. And so the pattern would be do the sex chakra, then the navel, front heart and back heart,
Okay.
and then the crown. And just have her just do it over and over and over again with the tuberose.
Okay.
Still do those other patterns, but like that one is just bread and butter. Like just have to keep doing it over and over again. Because like when things, like you could say, like when things get like this, even though it might be external things going on, there's still like that energy or that process of catastrophe. So it could be the force of failure, or energy of gloom, or the power of discouragement, and it's just different aspects. But usually for most people, in the early stages of something going on, it's that force of failure, which is usually pain related, stress related, change related, stuff like that. Things just kind of falling apart or potentially falling apart. And so with everything going on, that's the thing that it would work right now. If it was like later, things were stabilized, but they were still having problems, I would probably go more into the stuff with the brain. But because they're in like really difficult times, and like you said, they're hanging on for dear life, that's the area that I would hit. Like that.
Okay.
And like that could just be her lifeline, like the tuberose and hitting that pattern.
Mhm.
I mean, doing the stuff on the blood, organs for blood purification will be helpful and like bring like kind of a stability over a period of time. But crisis management is that pattern I just gave you.
Got it.
Yeah.
And for pH, I
Clean
did
those
the,
same areas with like green and electric violet.
got it.
Yeah. Clean them and then
Mm,
energize them with delicate regeneration colors.
got it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so
I'm
welcome.
for me.
Oh,
'Cause when
well, if you
yep,
calm that down, it'll probably calm the thing down being directed at you. But
okay,
for you, I would say um inhale or take a few drops internally of bay laurel. It will be protective, and
okay,
especially of the upper centers. Like
got
most
it.
times when we talk about protection, we're really trying to protect the lower centers. Bay
Uh-huh.
laurel is a little bit more protective to the higher. It's usually
What
not
would
an
be,
issue, but like when you're doing the healing, sometimes what happens is, like you said, they're not really thinking about it, but the chords happen up high because that's associated with the healing energy that comes in. So they'll
Mhm.
like attach a little bit up higher. Bay laurel actually works way better for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, what would be the oil for the lower centers protection?
Oh,
CRC?
sage, Palo Santo, rue, hyssop. Um, for the upper centers, you could also try frankincense. Frankincense might actually do it as well, but I tend to use bay laurel.
Okay.
So,
And you said taken internally, right?
yeah. You can put a bunch on your wrist and inhale, but definitely take some internally. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
When yeah, when you're doing a healing on somebody where they're going through a trauma or something, it's a lot like somebody who's like drowning.
Yes.
They're just clinging for dear life. So the sooner you get them a life preserver, the more that everything calms down. So usually, if you can do that, a lot of the stuff calms down.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so weird. I was at the grocery store
Yeah.
yesterday and I was about to visit this person and I all of a sudden felt this huge energy in my head, like I couldn't think straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just means they're in crisis.
Yeah.
I feel bad for them when they're doing
Me
it.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so
You're so
much.
Someone's just asking for clarity, which color for energizing? I think it was the regenerative.
Oh, delicate regeneration. Greenish yellow, greenish violet.
And go ahead, Robert.
Hey, Mr. Robert.
Hey, as I was sitting here staring at the screen, I saw an oil that I'm curious about. There's been a lot of discussion today about trauma. There's an oil from 2020 called Trauma Relief.
Yeah, so trauma relief is usually used for like when you're doing like kind of deeper work when you're releasing trauma. Like here in I mean, you could use it for something like that now, but it's usually used for going through and releasing like old traumas and things. Um, like say you're thinking about something that happened in high school or last year or something. Um, it could still work for now, but like sometimes when things are like really like in crisis mode, I go to just like single oils a little bit. Just keep it
Good.
really simple.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You could totally use it though, but I mean it's got the majority of the oil in it is helichrysum, but it's got like, if I remember right, it's got like marjoram. Let's look up to see what's in it. Yeah, I made that for a class. I think it was a trauma class. Yeah, it's helichrysum, candida, marjoram, and cypress. Candida's kind of got a similar vibe to like blue tansy without the blue. You know, it's anti-inflammatory. You could use it actually for something that's happening in the moment.
So going back to the
Ye-
woman with the bones, broken bones,
Yeah. It's well,
probably the Tarragon's better in that.
I would still stick with the tarragon. Yeah,
Okay.
for that. Like, so here's the thing with the trauma relief. Like so it has these components, but also what it's doing is this is why I say it's for like older things, is it's basically stimulating the transmutation process, like Mingmen, back heart, crown. And so it's one of the ways that you transmute the trauma out of the body, or like sadness and grief. You could use it for sadness and grief, but you know, there's oils that work a little bit better for that, but it's still, it just helps let go and transmute those things. And so it would still technically work, but like some of the traumas that we're talking about, like just the helichrysum would work, but like in your particular case, the tarragon would be so much better because
Okay.
you're dealing with shock, you're needing to balance out the nervous system, and you're needing to calm down the agitated emotions that comes from an injury or pain. And even helichrysum, it would be okay, but it wouldn't be as good as using tarragon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
With respect to the three brains, can
Mhm.
Greg explain if there is a difference between the order of cycles going from top down versus bottom top?
With the oils that we're using now, it does not matter. At some point when we start using specific oils to do specific things, it will start to matter somewhat. At that point, going down from the head down to the root brain, which is the sex chakra, breaks up thought forms, and going from the bottom up, it breaks up kind of the state that the body's in. Like, so if you've been traumatized for a while, even when the trauma's gone, you're still in kind of a traumatized state or a stressed out state, right? It helps to change the quality of the form so that it's easier to have like calmer thoughts or calmer emotions or more intuitive thoughts. And so but right now, that's not an issue. Right now, we're just trying to get everything up and going. We're trying to activate the centers. We're trying to get used to being aligned with them. You know, you could even experiment with it for a little bit, but as time goes by, we'll start doing very specific protocols to do very specific things. So right now, I would just say more important to practice with the different oil processes that we put forward, rather than being too much into which one's doing what. When we start breaking out those oils, well, there'll be very specific instructions. But you know, you almost have to get acclimated to the three brain thing, because your brain is processing way more information and more efficiently than it's done in the past. And so you just kind of got to get used to it for a little bit.
Perhaps a teaser on the nerve fluid class too? Smiley face.
Oh, sure. I've been writing so much that I have to look at my notes because I can't keep it all straight. The medulla, it's the medulla and the,
Yeah, the medulla
Yeah.
oblongata and the vagus nerve.
so yeah. Yeah, boy, oh boy. So this is working, this is actually a thing that's it's in a lot of esoteric practices, and it's actually even in some of the writings of Astara. But you're basically going through and refining parts of your nervous system, parts of the cerebral spinal fluid circulation, but again, not how like we target things like we're going to work the cerebral spinal fluid circulation, you know, like how we think about things like symptom oriented or even system oriented. This is about opening up and like kind of waking up the spine, but also how things get processed, like in the brain, the thalamus, things up in the head. It's very fortifying to the vagus nerve and the medulla, and it's also how information goes in and out and of the system, and also how energy comes down, hits the heart, and then gets processed in the energy body, you know, from the soul. And Astara, she refers to that as the supra consciousness, and it shifts the fight flight mechanism from being under control of just like the lower drives and the lower nature, and it starts to shift the fight flight mechanisms to be under control over a period of time of the cerebral spinal fluid circulation. And that is like your body's becoming in control of the higher nature rather than the lower nature. And so basically, like when you say you're increasing nerve fluid, what you're doing is you're increasing light in the nervous system. So it accelerates your ability to heal yourself. It accelerates your ability to heal others. It makes your energy field very like reflective. Like when people project negativity towards you, it gets reflected out without you even really realizing it. And it makes your words have a lot more potency when you're talking and when you're speaking. And so basically you're working the whole spine and the brain in a particular way to develop a certain aspect of energy in the body. And anytime you increase light, you're in the nervous system, you're decreasing the impact that karmic imagery has on your physiology and on your mind. And even when you're aware of this imagery, you know, you're not consciously aware, but like, you know, certain images will come into your head, you'll react very differently. So it's a way to break out of patterns that have not just been a lot of times this lifetime, it's things that have gone on lifetimes. And so anytime you increase light in the nervous system, you refine the ability of Kundalini to go up. You refine your ability to perceive even things that are very, very subtle. You refine your abilities with intuition. You refine your abilities with clairvoyance. I can't remember everything I said about it. Stronger sense. So one of the things is when the nervous system lights up, so to speak, like the transformational astrology kind of helps even develop the things that we're doing in this, the medulla and the vagus nerve class. You know, they're all kind of a series of like these 3 brain active clairvoyance classes. It helps you to hear, like there's the inner sound that's like the inner nod or the inner creative sound that is for, you know, humanity, for the earth, for, you know, just the creative force that flows through everything. But there's also a sound that is very personal to you, and the sound is an energy, but you can actually hear it, and you could say it's it's a way for the soul to transmit information to you so that you almost can act on it directly rather than like having to process it. It's almost like you're hardwiring the soul into your mental faculties. And so this practice is actually tied to that. Yeah. Like, if we think about psychological healing, and sometimes even things like anxiety, sometimes why it's hard is, sometimes it's too much logical mind. We're worrying about things, we're anticipating things, or we don't have enough intuitive combination with the intuitive part of the mind. And so we get a little off center a little bit. But sometimes the anxiety is actually tied to karmic imagery. And if it's not responding to anything, sometimes it boils down to that's what's happening. And so the only way to go through and really unwind that is you increase the light in the nervous system. You start breaking up that imagery and not reacting to that imagery, and it calms everything down.
It's going to take me a minute to assimilate all that. That was awesome. While we're at it, will you go ahead and talk about the essentials of intuition?
That's like nuts and bolts for 3 brain stuff. We'll go through and we'll unwind some of the instinctual responses, some of the stuff in the gut, and some of the stuff in the brain. So basically we'll unwind some of the aspects of the force of failure, and then in the gut, the energy of gloom, which is basically like turning away from light, like being too attached to the earth or your lower nature. And then the brain is the power of discouragement. And so it's just kind of laying out the 3 brain component and how to work it in ways that it's still building on the things that we've already said, but it just kind of takes the 3 brains and lays it out for somebody to go through and do a practice. If you're not doing all the other classes, it's a way to have a bit of a practice. And if you're doing all these other classes, it's very supportive of the things that you've already been doing and about to do. So.
Sorry, I missed these 2 questions. Which incense is good for harmony or peaceful for the home?
Harmony or peaceful for the home. Harmony or peaceful for the home. Is there a lot of conflict, or like what's going on in the house?
It's just a home that I really didn't, bond with real strongly. I never thought I'd stay here really long. And,
Gotcha.
but I've been here a long time, and now I realize that I never really loved it. I think, so.
Do sage. Do sage.
Sage.
Yeah, some form of sage. Yeah. I mean, I like doing Dalmatian sage, but like any of the sages will work.
Thank you.
Like if you think like sage, like it's cleansing and it helps you to kind of settle into something, but it also breaks up like a pattern or like a program that has happened through like activity and your thought processes and something. So it's like you're kind of stepping away from how you thought about the house to like, okay, this is the house that you're trying to look at it through new eyes. And so
Yes.
sage is very good for that.
Thank you. You read that really well.
Yeah.
And also I'd like, to increase the circulation in the home so there aren't such stagnant places in it, So-
Sage, I would do camphor for that. Like
Really?
maybe just rotate them back and forth. Yeah.
And maybe diffuse the camphor and then just
Or,
incense.
or you could do incense on both, or do sage and then diffuse camphor. Yeah, either way.
Okay, all right. Well, and can you talk just a little bit about the Archangel Michael one? Because Sam said she loved that one.
She does love that one.
She does.
It's very purifying to the environment, and it helps to elevate the energies of the house and the people around. And the thing with working with Michael is it helps you to not be so attached to the lower nature, and you're just always moving a little bit more to the higher nature. So it's very regulating to the lower drives and things like that, the instinctual responses and things of that nature. And so just think of it as like elevating the environment, but also the people that are in the environment. It helps to elevate them out of like lower drives.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're
Chris.
so welcome.
And Greg mentioned about lifetime. Oh, sorry. This is the class for the, the medulla and the vagus nerve.
Mhm.
Greg mentioned about lifetime's actions. Does it also help transform generational thinking and actions?
Yep. Most time what generational thinking, what people or actions people are thinking about are usually more karmic in nature rather than generational. Because even coming into that that genetic line still has karmic reasons why that happens. And so either way, it would help unwind that a bit. The best way to unwind that though, 3 brains, like just crank up the 3 brains, because you have to be able to recognize patterns and then start kind of walking out of them. And there's all kinds of talk about it, but to truly do it, you're looking at behaviors, you're looking at patterns that are on autopilot. You really have to elevate the intuitional thinking to be able to perceive it, to be able to address it, and then walk out of it.
Can Greg say more about the force of failure? It isn't sticking.
You could say it's stress, you could say that it's pain, but it's usually more of a pattern of that. Think of it like this, like the sex chakra is the root brain. So it's the instinctive response. And then part of the instinctive response is it stimulates the adrenals, and you get that, either fight, flight, or you get excited. So what happens over a period of time, even if you don't think about it like this, what happens is we do things because it's exciting, be it that it's at first it might always be like a happy, or it's new, or it's cool, or whatever it is, right? There's a kind of excitement. But even like like somebody being attracted, like to a woman being attracted to the bad guy or the bad boy or whatever, part of that is the instinctive response gets stimulated and activates the adrenals, and then there's an excitement with it. There's like a danger to it. And even in our choices and the way that we think and our perceptions and our opinions, there's a component that lies in here. And after a period of time, it stops being about evaluating things based on facts or like what I think is good for me. It starts to be about how does it make me feel, or is it exciting or not? And then what starts to happen is you start doing things that are exciting, and exciting doesn't judge good or bad. It just wants the roller coaster ride, right? It doesn't go, hey, long term, this is going to be really great for you. It's just like, there's going to be a little drama. There's going to be a little something. There's going to be a little excitement. Let me hear about the gossip. Let me, whatever it is. And so what starts happening is you don't really cultivate things that are good for you. You're cultivating things for excitement, or, for that dance. And what starts to happen is it just starts to cause things to fall apart. You know, even if you get something good, it falls apart very quickly. You know, you might go from like a potentially good relationship, and then boom, it falls apart after a little short time, and you find another good relationship, and boom, it falls apart. Or you know, you get ahead financially, and boom, it falls apart. Or you know, whatever it is, it's just boom, something's happening that's good, and then it falls apart very quickly. That's tied to these mechanisms, and so you basically have to retrain your nervous system and your glands, your energy body, to not respond to things in this way. You know, think of it like this: is somebody who's very opportunistic and not like strategic, like, hey, this is good for me. It's just like, hey, this is an opportunity, you know, whatever it is. That's cultivating the force of failure. So in the Lord's Prayer, it's tied to lead us not into temptation and deliver us from evil, because it's not cultivating divine love, which is providence and stability. It's cultivating like just a downward spiral, like animalistic instincts, just the thrill of something. And the thrill is not always a good, like for like a positive thrill. It could be people get used to having negative things happen, and there's almost like a thrill in that as well. And so, you know, that's the force of failure. Does that help, or does that make sense?
They said sounds familiar. Thanks.
Yes, we all got it. Like, let's be clear. It's not like, oh, some people have it, some people don't. It's you're in a body, so you have to at least address it. You know, it might not be running amok right now, but you know, 10 bad decisions and it's running amok. You know what I mean? It can be something that can go south very, very quickly. And so, you know, like I'll give another example is, I was doing work for this one person one time. It was a company, and they were starting a new company, and you know, they were a consulting company, but like for tech and all this kind of thing. And you know, they started off and it was a little rough, and then they got going, and then they started getting a little successful. And I think I came in like when they were like in their rough patch, right? And then things started getting better, and then they started getting successful. They were successful, but they weren't like, it was like new growth, right? And they weren't strong yet, and they were still figuring out how to do some of the processes and how to allocate resources and employees and, you know, their efforts and everything like that. But things were expanding, right? So, you know, what started happening is they would start getting these opportunities that maybe took more time and energy and were more of a long-term way of generating revenue, but it was going to take too long. They still weren't out of the woods yet. You know, like sometimes in the early stages of being successful, that's like the most critical time, because that's when everything can blow up. And so they would keep having these opportunities where it wasn't going to be revenue for a while, and they didn't have, you know, money banked to be able to handle something like this. And so, you know, every step of the way it'd go, oh, that's probably not a good choice. Don't do that. Like later, like in a year, maybe 2 years, but you guys are still too new. And so I talked them out of doing those things, and things were still going good. And then they were just getting ready to do a launch this big new project and a new website for this particular project and everything. And the owner decided that she was going to buy a new house. And I was like, is there something wrong with the house? And they're like, no, I just, we're successful. I would like a bigger house. And I was like, okay, you can do whatever you want, but you already got too much on your plate as it is. And now you're going to throw in buying a house, moving, you got kids, you got new schools, like you got all this thing, like probably not a good idea. Like I would wait like in a year, like do it in a year, like, maybe 18 months. But they were like, no, we're successful. I want to do that. And I was like, you get to make your own decision, but I'm telling you, like when I look at it, it does not look good. And let's just say they had some insulting words for me. And I was like, okay, maybe I don't get it. Maybe you're right. They bought the house and that project blew up because they were too overextended. Like the way that I always described it was like a little piece of butter spread over too big of a piece of toast. They were just spread so thin. And the woman and the husband started fighting, kids' grades went down, and the project blew up. And if they hadn't bought that house, they would have had a much better chance. Those things still could have happened, but much better chance of pulling that off with their efforts, their revenue, like all the things in place. And on the surface, it looks like these amazing things are happening. I want this other amazing thing to happen. And sometimes it's like, yeah, it can happen, but sometimes you need to be strategic about it and not just keep doing stuff. So like really, it wasn't that bad, something bad happened, but because they didn't stay focused on what they were doing and allowed these distractions to come in, they basically blew up their life and their business. And so, yeah. Ironically, they accused me of doing something to them energetically to make that all happen. Like, really? That's where you're gonna go with that? I don't know. But anyway, it is what it is. Yeah. Did that help with the force of failure thing though? It's not like, how we talk about like, oh, it's not like this symptom or that symptom. It's more about a pattern or a series of actions that you don't see them because you're looking like this. But if you step back and you go, oh, you see it. But when you look like this, you can't see it. Yeah.
We got it. Go ahead, Sonia, then Chris.
Hey, Sonia.
On the class for transformational astrology, you had said that you were supposed to give your birth or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you sign up, I'll make it so it's really easy for you. We just figured it out literally right before we started tonight. So by the end of the night, you'll be able to say, I'm this sign, and you're going to register with your zodiac sign.
And you can be Eastern or Western. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Oh, is it got any relationship to the stuff that that lady was doing,
Oh, the human design?
Yeah.
No, not really. Yeah.
Okay.
This is more of a esoteric thing. Old school alchemy. Yeah.
All right.
And then go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hello again. Just a
Mhm.
quick question, Greg.
Mhm.
I'm assisting a client who's wanting to order several incense, and her goal is for meditating and working. You know, she's starting to build a business. What would you
Mhm.
recommend?
Frankincense and Abra melon right off the bat.
Yeah.
Abra melon for physicalizing the blessings and
Okay.
for prosperity. I mean, prosperity
Okay.
incense could be good as well, but like
Which one was that?
Abra melon. Like it helps with both prosperity and the meditation component. You know, because Abra melon is like what they burn in the tabernacle or to purify and concretize the space for the ceremony.
Okay.
And so and then frankincense is very cleansing, it's very good for the upper faculties, it's very good for, so I'd say frankincense or even Archangel Michael. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
If you ask me, I would
Anything
say
else?
if you ask Samantha, she would say Michael.
Can you give me a couple more?
Sure.
Uh,
Let's see. So prosperity and meditation.
and building a business. Well, that's Abramelin. So
Yeah. Well, she's wanting incense, so
Oh, that might.
how about like
Mm.
clarity and thought and intention?
yeah, I would do the frankincense or the Michael with that. Yeah. I
Hard,
mean,
hard to be a buyer.
yeah, like
Everything's good.
everything's good, but like like if you're really starting to get serious about some of those things, the poplar incense might be a one to throw in the mix.
Okay.
I would say that's
The fanciest. One
yeah.
of the fancy.
And then like for like if she's having to do a lot of contemplation or you know like sometimes with starting a new business you have to kind of like keep adjusting the absinthium. Yeah.
Oh, you know, that fell off my radar lately.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgot how I love that.
Yeah, it's so nice.
I love it in a salt bath.
Yeah,
It's
oh my
almost
God,
like it's so hard to get out of the
yeah.
Okay, I think I have enough. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Great questions tonight, guys. You have a little bit of time.
Yeah, let's do a little protocol. So if you have frankincense, myrrh, patchouli, three wise men, frankincense and myrrh, endocrine support, you know, basically the oils from, but also like helichrysum, if you have helichrysum, even if you had like tarragon or benzoin.
Since you said it's basically those ones, did you mention myrtle and I missed it? Or is that not really one for this?
Not
Okay,
not for
just
this one. Yeah.
So frankincense, myrrh, patchouli, helichrysum, tarragon, benzoin, three wise men,
Frankincense and myrrh.
frankincense and myrrh.
Yeah. Okay. And so like we talked over the weekend, we are working the aspects of the will with things that could directly impact the endocrine system. The one anomaly here is helichrysum isn't necessarily going to impact the endocrine system or your glands, but it does release some trauma. And part of why the will gets wound up in a negative way is actually pain and trauma. And so Actually, on that note, you could even use galbanum if you wanted to. So just notice how you feel. And then begin inhaling. Your awareness is on the bottom of the tailbone. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then just pause and be still for a minute. And try to And then again, begin inhaling. Your awareness is on the basic. And then pause and be still. Awareness is on the front solar plexus. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then pause and be still. Your awareness is on the back solar plexus. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the back solar. And then pause and be still. Your awareness is between the eyebrows. Long, slow, deep breaths. Awareness between the eyebrows. And then pause and be still. Just pause and be still. And then your crown. Long, slow, deep breaths. Awareness is on the ground. And then just be still. Just be still. Notice where you feel it in your body. A heaviness, a glitch, a tightness. Wherever that is, inhale with your awareness on that part of your body. And then just pause. Notice how you feel. So this impacts some of the glands and the endocrine function, but also how it interacts and impacts the will. And so you look at things like procrastination or being stuck with just certain kind of emotional reactions, and sometimes it's the intertwining of the glands and the will. There's a little bit of an impact also with the nervous system, the sympathetic part of the nervous system, fight flight. But for this, we're just looking at the glands. So you notice if it's kind of calming to the body, it's soothing to the body. If you worked helichrysum, you did release some trauma. So Usually it's non-specific, you know, it might be something specific for you. You had a big event, but usually there's a bunch of micro traumas that just come out. You know, things we wouldn't even really recognize as a trauma, but the body does. And so, anyway, we're going to switch over to the Astara session where they do the blessing of the prayer petitions, and we are going to be doing a little bit extra for the war in Israel, Ukraine as well. But you know, join us if you can, and we're going to do prayers to help protect some of the people that are caught in the middle there. Anyway, join us if you can. If not, hopefully you can join us tomorrow night. Is a study group that it was a free weekend, so open to everybody. And a bunch of you I think I'm seeing on this weekend for the class this weekend. So